Welcome to Leadership is Dead, the podcast that challenges traditional leadership thinking and explores what it really means to lead in a post-COVID world. Each week, we dive into fresh insights and strategies brought to you by leadership expert Dr. Neil McIntyre. Each week, our hosts Liam Williams and Ava Brown take you through thought-provoking discussions based on Dr. McIntyre's latest writings and ideas, which are designed to help you rethink what leadership can be. But before Liam and Ava dive in, let's hear directly from Dr. McIntyre himself as he shares a few words on today's topic. Get ready, because he's here to set the stage for what's coming up.
If I was to ask your team to describe you as a leader, what would they say? Is that even something you would really feel comfortable with somebody asking your team? You know, I think a lot of leaders out there, if you mention that request to them, they get a little antsy. They get a little nervous about what their team may say to describe them. I mean, the responses could be all over the place, and some of the responses may, in fact, be accurate, whereas others may be an exaggeration. But if somebody was to ask your team to describe what kind of leader you are to them, would they describe you as a leader who is innovative, one that is an inspiration to them, one that is able to empower them and encourage them to accomplish far more than they ever believed that they could? Are you a leader that gives them a culture of growth? Are you the type of leader that pours value into your team in order for them to be better and that ultimately they can reach their full potential? Or on the other side, would they classify you as a leader who is good, but that you have a tendency to give in to certain weaknesses every now and then, such as controlling behaviors or micromanaging behaviors? And by that you're restraining them from being able to achieve everything that they could possibly achieve. Which one would it be? How would they describe you? And the reason I'm asking for somebody to ask your team to describe you, instead of asking you to describe yourself, is that you're going to get a more accurate impression and an accurate description from your team, because they see you every day. They know your strengths, they know your weaknesses. But here's the thing. When we talk about leadership, I think every leader at times struggles with being over-controlling. I think every leader at some point or another also displays micromanaging behaviors, even though they don't intentionally do it, and it's not really what they want to do. But why is that? What's causing the micromanaging behaviors? What's causing a leader to be controlling? Because truth be known, we all want our teams to grow. We all want our teams to thrive and excel in everything they do. And none of us as leaders want to stand in their way of achieving their potential. So why do we display those behaviors at times? Well, the reality is that those behaviors are actually symptoms of an underlying issue. And that issue is fear. And I have talked to many leaders across many different businesses and industries. And as we talk about different challenges that their organizations face, it's fairly common for certain issues to kind of bubble to the surface. One of those issues is fear. The leader of the organization may not realize it. They may know they have an issue here. They may know that they're a little overbearing or a little over-controlling at times, but they don't recognize the root cause of it. And here again, it goes back to fear. Now, I firmly believe that every single one of us as leaders, at some point or another in our journey of growth, has to face our fears. And each one of us has the same fears. I don't care if you're a brand new leader in this whole leadership development cycle. I don't care if you're an experienced leader. At some point, we have all had to, or are currently facing, or are going to have to face these fears. Failure to face these fears will lead to our organizations always operating within mediocrity. We'll never reach our full potential. So if every leader has the same basic fears that lead to controlling behaviors and micromanaging behaviors, what are the fears that are the source of this type of behavior? Well, my work has uncovered two particular fears or phobias that normally attribute to this. The first fear is that of imperfection. We all want to do a great job. As a matter of fact, I don't care what level of leader you are within an organization, we all take pride in our unit, our department, our company, whatever, producing stellar, high quality services, goods, products, whatever it is that you're in the business of doing or making. We want our customers, our patients, our clients, whoever they may be, to have a phenomenal experience with our company. So with that, a lot of times we focus so much on quality that what we're really doing is focusing on maintaining perfection. Now, that's an ideal that we all should strive for. But the reality of it is that oftentimes organizational leaders fail to realize that as it being a goal to work towards, and they view it as a destination to maintain. What I mean by that is this. They operate underneath a mindset whereby they believe that their team can actually achieve and consistently maintain perfection, and they don't accept anything less. That is a very delusional mindset. Instead, what we need to do as effective leaders is embrace the notion and the mindset of improvement, and that is continual improvement, and abandon that of perfection, because we'll never maintain perfection. We may have momentary instances of perfection, but it won't be sustaining though. But now on the other hand, if we have a mindset that's focused on improvement, now that is something we can continually do every single day. It's achievable, it's realistic, it's practical. Because see, we're not perfect beings. We're going to make mistakes. It's just part of our human nature. So instead of your team making a mistake and you holding them to the fire on that, use that as a moment of learning and of inspiration. That even though they made a mistake today, they were still operating at a better level than they were yesterday. There's improvement. That is encouraging. That is empowerment. When you're holding somebody to the standard of perfection, it's going to lead to negative consequences because they're always going to fail. A leader always sets his team or her team up for success, not failure. Now, the second phobia that leaders regularly have at some point in their journey is the fear of decreased value. Now, what do I mean by the fear of decreased value? One of the common challenges that leaders have to face, usually pretty early in their leadership career, is being able to trust others to take the job duties and run with it. instead of the leader doing it himself or herself. But a lot of times leaders are very hesitant about that and resistant to it because they have this mindset that so-and-so, I could give it to them to do, but they're not going to be able to do the same caliber and same quality of work that I can do. I can do it better. Well, the problem with that is that as a person, and I don't care who you are, whether you're the brand new employee or whether you're the leader, there's only so much work that you can do. You have a limited capacity. And once that capacity is reached, or even when you get close to that capacity, your work quality starts to diminish because it's too much to do and too little of you. So leaders oftentimes have this fear of delegation because it is attached to their ultimate fear of reduced value. But here's the thing. There's ways around that, okay? Because when you look at the fear of imperfection and the fear of reduced value, you may think that on a surface level, both of those fears involve potential deficiencies with your team. But that's not true. If you really look at those two fears, the fear of imperfection and the fear of reduced value, what you're really talking about is that both sources of the fear involves you. Because see, one is a mindset. The ideal of chasing perfection, that's a faulty mindset to have. We need to get rid of that because we're setting ourselves, we're setting our organization, we're setting our team up for failure there. Always improve every single day because that's realistic. Achieving perfection is not realistic and it's not sustainable. You'll fail every time. The second thing is, when we talk about the fear of reduced value, my question to that and the solution to that is found in the answer to this question. How is your onboarding process and how is your training process for new hires and also for continual learning experiences throughout the career cycle of your team? Because if you have a robust training system where you basically give your employees all the knowledge, all the skills, every single bit of information that they need to do their jobs at a high quality level, then you have basically poured value into them, and you should be able to sit back and rest assured that you have done everything you can do to ensure their success, and now you have to back off and let them grow. It's kind of like raising kids and everything. Once your child gets to be in their teenage years, as a parent, you've got to back off a little bit, even though it's hard. As a leader, you have to do that for your teams in order for them to grow. But here's the thing. We allow these two fears to take over our actions and our behaviors slowly with the passage of time. But by changing our mindset to focus on continuous improvement and also pouring value and training and learning opportunities into our team, we can face our phobias with renewed confidence because we will have increased trust in our team and we will know for certain that we have done everything we can for our team to excel in this moment. So face your phobias, become the leader your team needs you to be, help them reach their full potential. That way, all of you and your entire organization will excel together.
Wow. Okay. I mean, can we just take a moment? Dr. McIntyre, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, he really has this this way of making you see leadership totally differently.
I know, right? I'm trying to be better at leading people, and well, it felt like he was talking right to me, especially when he started talking about all those, the those fears that we all have.
You're right. It really is so easy to get tripped up by them, like thinking that, they're just part of what makes a good leader.
I mean, who hasn't felt, that pressure to make the absolutely perfect decision, or that maybe you should just handle everything yourself? But Dr. McIntyre kind of helped me see that those fears can actually hold everyone back.
Yeah. And he really hit the nail on the head with the two main fears that he talked about, the fear of imperfection and the fear of decreased value.
Okay, so let's start with that first one, the fear of imperfection. I mean, we all hear a lot about, striving for excellence. But when does that become like a fear of anything less than perfect?
Well, that's where it gets a little complicated. It's like Dr. McIntyre said, perfection is a goal. It's not a destination. But so many of us get so focused on chasing after that perfect thing. And we forget to appreciate all the progress along the way, And that can be really tough on us and our team too.
Yeah, it's almost like there's an impossible standard for everyone. No wonder people get burnt out. Like that story Dr. McIntyre told about the leader who was obsessed with every single little detail. It was as if he couldn't let anyone even breathe, let alone make a mistake.
Yeah, and remember what happened. That team became so scared of messing up that they wouldn't take any chances. Creativity went right out the window, and they didn't reach their goals.
Like, yeah, that whole shoot for the moon, land among the stars thing. But in this story, the leader's fear of being imperfect kept everyone stuck on the ground. They couldn't even take off. So how do we get out of this trap, this perfection trap? Dr. McIntyre talked about shifting to a growth mindset, right?
Oh, he did. He really emphasized that instead of aiming for perfection, we should be focused on getting better all the time. Continuous improvement. It's about being happy, about the small victories, learning from the mistakes, and always looking for ways to improve.
So it's not about getting down on yourself for every little slip-up.
Not at all. In fact, Dr. McIntyre actually suggested that we should reframe our thoughts about mistakes. Instead of seeing them as failures, we should see them as opportunities to learn. He actually encouraged leaders to make a culture where it's safe to try new things and even make mistakes, because that's where a lot of new ideas come from.
That's really true. Think about all the breakthroughs that have come from someone saying, hey, what if we tried this crazy idea? If we're too scared to even try, we'll never find those amazing possibilities.
And imagine how much more our teams would be into it if they felt like they could try new things and not be afraid of getting punished for making a mistake. It's about changing the focus from being perfect to embracing the journey of learning and growing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It reminds me of this time I was leading a project and got so stuck in the details that I was basically micromanaging the whole team. I thought I was being helpful, but I was actually stopping their creativity, making them feel like they couldn't do anything right.
Oh, I've totally been there. It's easy to think we're the only ones who can do it right.
Yeah. And that actually leads us right into Dr. McIntyre's second fear, the fear of decreased value. This is the one where we think we have to do everything ourselves because no one else can do it as well. Everyone listening has probably felt that at some point.
It's super common, and Dr. McIntyre pointed out that it's not just about what our team can or can't do. It's often about our own insecurities. We get so wrapped up in being the go-to person that we start believing that our worth is tied to doing everything ourselves.
It's almost like we're afraid that if we delegate something and it goes wrong, it'll somehow make us less valuable as a leader.
Which doesn't even make sense, right? Because the truth is, when we try to do everything ourselves, we're setting ourselves up for burnout. But we're also limiting what our team can do.
And honestly, haven't you found that some of the best ideas come from those times when we step back and let our team take charge?
Absolutely. I've seen it happen so many times. When you empower team members to take ownership, it leads to some really incredible innovation, and everyone feels like they really achieve something together. It's like you open up this whole new level of creativity and problem solving when you trust your team to bring their own unique ideas.
And it's funny because Dr. McIntyre used this analogy about parenting that really resonated with me. He talked about how, as parents, we have to let go at some point.
Yeah.
And trust our kids to make their own decisions, even if that means, making mistakes.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I mean, we can't shield our kids from every little thing that goes wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we definitely shouldn't stop them from growing by, trying to control their whole life. It's kind of the same with our teams. We got to give them the space to learn and grow, even if it means they might mess up sometimes.
That's like that saying, right? Give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime.
Exactly. It's not about giving our team every single answer or doing it all for them. It's about empowering them, giving them the tools to develop their own skills and figure things out on their own.
Dr. McIntyre also talked about training and onboarding.
Yeah.
That's a good way to overcome this fear of decreased value,
Yeah.
right? It makes sense. When we invest in our team's skills, we're not just giving them what they need to succeed, but we're also showing that we trust them.
Yeah, it sends a really powerful message to your team. It's like saying, hey, I believe in you. I'm investing in your growth because I know you can do great things.
And that kind of encouragement, it can really make a difference, especially for someone who might be struggling with self-doubt. It's amazing what a little trust and support can do.
It creates this cycle of empowerment. We trust our team, so they step up so we feel more confident in them, and that, in turn, makes us trust them even more. It's a win-win.
So just to recap for everyone listening, we've been talking about these two sneaky fears that Dr. McIntyre highlighted, the fear of imperfection and the fear of decreased value. And, we've talked about how both of these fears can disguise themselves as something else, like wanting excellence or, being committed to quality. But deep down, it's often insecurity that's driving us.
It's so easy to fall into those traps without even realizing it.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to be aware of them, to really understand how they show up and how we act, and to come up with ways to overcome them.
Because when we let fear control our decisions, it can lead to micromanaging, it can lead to a lack of trust, and ultimately it can make the team feel, disengaged and unmotivated.
And that's the irony of it all, right? We think we're protecting ourselves and our teams by holding on so tight, but in reality, we're holding them back from growing and reaching their full potential.
Which brings us to a really important question. How do we break free from these fear-based patterns? How do we become more empowering leaders?
Well, Dr. McIntyre had some great advice about shifting our mindset, recognizing that mistakes are just a part of learning.
And that it's okay to not have all the answers. In fact, sometimes saying, I don't know, can actually build trust and create an environment where everyone feels more comfortable sharing ideas and asking for help.
He also talked about how important delegation is, not just to free up our time, but also to help our team develop their skills and take ownership. And remember that training and onboarding part, investing in our team's development is a key part of building that trust that allows us to, loosen the reins a little.
Yeah, it all boils down to creating a culture where it's safe to experiment, to learn, and to grow.
And that starts with us, the leaders. We have to be the ones to model that growth mindset, to be vulnerable, to admit when we're wrong, and to celebrate our team's successes as much as our own.
Oh, Dr. McIntyre shared this story about a leader who used to be a total micromanager, always hovering over the team, second-guessing every decision, and just creating this, this anxious atmosphere where nobody trusted each other. But then something changed.
What happened?
He had this realization. He realized that his fear of messing up, his need to control everything, was actually stopping his team from doing their best. So he decided he had to start letting go.
I bet that wasn't easy. I mean, it's one thing to talk about empowering your team, but actually doing it can be really tough, especially when you're used to being in control.
It definitely takes work, and it's a process. There will be times when you want to micromanage or fix things yourself, but the key is to catch yourself and remember that you need to trust your team.
And trusting your team doesn't mean you just, abandon them and hope for the best. It's about setting clear expectations, giving them support, and creating a system where you can celebrate wins and tackle problems together.
It's about finding that balance between giving structure and letting your team be creative and solve problems.
Speaking of creativity, Dr. McIntyre gave some really inspiring examples of companies that have encouraged experimentation and risk-taking. Places where employees feel like they can try new things without being afraid to fail. And guess what? Those are the companies that are leading the way in their industries.
It's really fascinating, isn't it? Amazing things can happen when you make space for creativity and innovation.
It makes you wonder what we could all accomplish if we really took Dr. McIntyre's advice to heart. If we started challenging those limiting beliefs that are holding us back.
It's about shifting our focus from control to empowerment, from perfection to progress, from individual success to collective success.
And that's a powerful message that goes beyond just the workplace. It applies to any part of our lives where we're in a position to lead. Our families, our communities, even just ourselves.
We all have the potential to be more empowering leaders.
As we're talking about this, I'm starting to see how these fears, even though they're tough, can actually be opportunities for growth. They can help us figure out where we need to improve our own leadership skills.
And when we approach these challenges with curiosity and a willingness to learn, we can turn those fears into strengths.
Like Dr. McIntyre said, the best leaders don't run from their fears. They face them head on and use them as fuel for growth.
He also reminded us that leadership isn't about having all the answers or being perfect. It's about inspiring others to be their best.
That's such a great way to think about leadership. It's not about control or authority. It's about empowering others to reach their full potential.
And that's something we can all strive for, no matter what our title or position is.
You know, listening to Dr. McIntyre today has really made me think differently about how I lead. I want to be more intentional about creating a culture of empowerment and growth within my team.
Me too. And I think that's the power of these deep dives, They push us to go deeper and really grapple with these important ideas.
And that's what we're all about here, taking these complex topics and breaking them down into insights that you can actually use in your own life.
We want to give you the knowledge and the inspiration to become better, more authentic, and more fulfilling leaders.
So as we wrap up this part of our conversation, I'd love to leave our listeners with a question to think about.
Go ahead.
What steps can you take, like today, to start overcoming the fears that might be holding you back as a leader?
That's a great question to reflect on. And remember, it's a journey. It's not about reaching some finish line. There will be bumps along the way. But with awareness, with intention and with a commitment to growth, we can all become more empowering leaders.
Yeah, it's really encouraging when you think about all the good that can happen when we choose to lead with courage and authenticity.
It's like, that quote, be the change you want to see in the world. Well, maybe it should be the leader you want to see in the world.
I love that. And you know something? It just occurred to me that Dr. McIntyre never actually said what leadership is.
That's true, isn't it? He kind of danced around it, never gave us a, solid definition.
I think he did that on purpose.
Oh, really? Why do you think that?
I think he was trying to say that leadership isn't about, titles or positions. It's something much deeper.
It's like a mindset, right? A way of being.
Exactly. And it's something we can all work on, whether we're, leading a team at work or a sports team or even just trying to get through tough times.
Oh, he did say that one thing that really stuck with me. Leadership is not a position, it's a disposition.
Yeah, that's perfect. It's about, who we are, the choices we make, and how we affect others.
And we can have a much bigger impact if we don't let fear get in the way.
For sure. When we lead with fear, we end up micromanaging, controlling, and, stifling the creativity of the people around us.
But when we lead with courage and, authenticity, and when we really want to empower others, that's when everyone can reach their full potential.
Not just our potential, but the potential of everyone we're leading.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Dr. McIntyre's talk, I want to go back to something we talked about earlier. That idea that facing our fears as leaders, well, it's not just about doing better ourselves or even making our teams perform better.
It's about something much bigger.
Yeah, it's about becoming the kind of leaders who inspire other people to become leaders too.
It's about creating a ripple effect, spreading leadership way beyond just us.
Imagine if everyone felt empowered to lead, to reach their full potential, to make a real difference.
That's a world I want to live in, and I think that's really what Dr. McIntyre was getting at.
It's a message of hope, of what's possible, and of how powerful leadership can be.
And it's a message for all of us, no matter where we are on our leadership journey.
Whether we've been doing this for years, or just starting out as managers, or just, beginning to think about our own leadership, we can all make a difference.
And it starts with facing our fears, using our strengths, and really committing to becoming the best leaders we can be.
So let's all go out there and lead with courage, be ourselves, and really believe in the power of what people can do.
And let's inspire others to do the same. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into leadership fears. We'll be back next week with another conversation that'll really get you thinking.
Until then, lead from the heart and help others shine.
That's all for this week on Leadership is Dead. A big thank you to our hosts, Liam Williams and Ava Brown, for their insightful discussion and analysis. And of course, a special thanks to Dr. Neil McIntyre, whose writings and thought leadership have provided the foundation for this podcast. If you're looking for more information on leadership strategies for a post-COVID world, be sure to visit Dr. McIntyre's website at neilmcintyreconsulting.com. You can also connect with him on LinkedIn by searching for Dr. Neil McIntyre. Remember, leadership is evolving, and it's time to embrace new approaches. Subscribe to Leadership is Dead wherever you get your podcasts, and join us next week for another enlightening discussion. Until then, lead with purpose.